Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Work Better Club session on how to build self-confidence. My name is Swapnil Kamat, and I will be conducting this session today. And I'm very excited about doing this session. I'm very excited that we have so many people that have come on a Sunday morning to start with. That's very good. Shows your commitment towards getting better, improving your career, improving your life, and improving every sphere of yourself. So that's very exciting. The participant count seems to be going up. We have a very interesting topic on our hands today, right? We have the topic of how to build self-confidence. This is a topic that is not. It's so important to our professional and personal lives. It has such a big impact in our lives, and yet, unfortunately, we never or very rarely get any input on how to build self-confidence. So I was very excited to kind of put this subject as a part of the Work Better Club, and I'm equally and more excited about actually conducting this session for you. Okay, so before we before we go ahead, let's look at some of the ground rules for those of you all who are new to this. Your cameras, microphones have been muted to avoid any disturbance. If you can see a screen that says ground rule and hear me clearly and see my video, type a big yes in the chat box so that I'm clear that you can see me. Okay. Come on, everyone, give me a big yes so I know that you can hear me and see me. And this is a good time to change your settings, your chat settings, where you're chatting not just with all panelists, but with all panelists and attendees, right? Doing both. So that is something that you can change your setting right now. Okay. Yes. So this session, which is going to be conducted, is going to be a 60 to 90-minute sessions. Our sessions never end up being 60-minute sessions. They're always 90-minute sessions. And I will take questions like all of you all know. We have an after class, which is there after the 60 to 90 minutes, where we exclusively deal with your questions. I'm assuming that today's class is going to have many questions because it's such an interesting topic. When you have to ask any questions, please use the chat box for it. Please use the Q&A box for it, not the chat box for it. The chat box you can use for the questions that I ask and the questions where I seek your answers. But when you have any questions, use the chat box. I'm going to use it. I'm going to take questions from there. And at the end of the session, as you know, there's going to be an easy assessment for us to know that you paid attention to this particular session. So that is going to be there. And yeah, if you answer that, you're going to get 70% plus. If you get, you're going to get a certificate from our side. Right now, let's dive right in to what is self-confidence. I thought this was a pretty good definition of what self-confidence is. Self-confidence is belief in your own judgment and abilities, and that you value yourself and feel worthy, regardless of any imperfections or what others may believe about you. I think this is a pretty good definition of what self-confidence is, right? Let me repeat it. Self-confidence is belief in your own judgment and abilities, and that you value yourself and feel worthy regardless of any imperfections or what others may believe about you, right? So this is what self-confidence is essentially, and this is what we're trying to see, how you can build and improve your own self-confidence. Okay, so let's go right into our first exercise. There are quite a few exercises in today's program. Let's go into our first exercise, which is, why is it important for us to have or build self-confidence, right? So give me any 3 points, write the 3 points together in the chat, and then press enter when you're doing it, right? But give me any 3 points per person, write them in the chat box, please. Okay, let's look at some of the ideas that are coming here. Rohini says to present our ideas openly. Ganesh says he's put all three of them together. Earn trust, worth admiration, and grow in our overall well-being. Anil PV says to succeed, to lead, to influence. Manjusha says knowledge, communication skills. Okay. Santosh Ganti says to face this competitive world, facing life ahead, stand on our own legs in life. Some good answers. Right? When you're chatting, please ensure that you're chatting to all the panelists and attendees and not just the panelists, so everybody can see your answers. Govind says finishing the work within timelines, develop positive attitude, career growth. Vivek Deep says help in communicating with others, help in career and personal growth, help in leading teams. Okay, Pratyush says if you trust in yourself, then only others will trust in you. Lead and grow. To believe in yourself, to express our ideas, to have smooth communication. Okay, I think there are some very, very good answers. Okay, now, okay, I'll give you a minute more to put your answers down. Tanmay says it's a prerequisite for personal and professional growth. Okay, so some good answers have come in the chat box. Now, let me share a little bit of what my view on this is, right? Um, so, very simply put, if you are not confident about yourself, how do you expect other people to be confident or show confidence in you? It's very simple, right? If you are not confident in yourself, how on earth do you expect other people to show or be confident in you? It's literally like when you meet another person, and if you're not confident, it's literally like the other person is thinking this. He's saying, if you're 30 years old, for example, he's like you have lived in your own body for 30 years, you know yourself pretty well, and you are not confident about your own self. Okay, I repeat, you have known yourself for 30 years, lived in your own body for 30 years, and you are not confident about yourself. So how do you expect me to be confident in you when I barely know you or I have barely met you, right? So that is what plays out in another person's mind when he's meeting somebody that's low on confidence or not confident at all, right? That is what is playing in somebody else's mind. People become extremely suspicious of you. People don't trust you. People get scared to entrust you with any responsibility or anything that needs to be done when you're not confident. And overall, it has huge negative impacts on your life, right? If you are not a confident person, and we're going to get into this confidence thing, right? Because it's this topic that we're discussing, my friends, is not it's not a simple topic. It's a very deep topic. It's not even a topic that you can cover within 90 minutes. So I'm not saying at any point of time that this is the only what we're going to cover in the 90 minutes here is the only thing that is there in self-confidence. No, there are lots of other things beyond what we're going to cover here. We try to identify the most practical, the most real, the most implementable stuff that will really make a difference to you and help you understand this thing. But these are very broad, big subjects like confidence, right? However, let's see how this subject of confidence is going to impact you at every stage in your life and how it has a direct impact on your well-being. If you are somebody that gets nervous very easily, if you are somebody that is not a confident person, and if you go for a job interview, you are likely not to get the job, right? Even though you may have all the qualifications on your CV or on the paper, you are still not likely to get the job, and somebody else whose CV probably doesn't look as good as you or doesn't have the requisite experience, but shows a lot of confidence, he has a better chance of getting the job than you, right? Because when the interviewing panel is thinking about you, they're thinking about exactly what I said. They said that this guy knows himself for 30 years and is not confident. How am I supposed to be confident in him in half an hour, right? Or 30 minutes? How am I supposed to do that, right? That's not the way life works. So even if you go for an interview, the person who's more confident is much more likelier to get the job. As a matter of fact, so many people are so poor with their confidence that they don't even want to go for a job interview, right? They don't want to. They very often stick to a horrible job, deal with a terrible set of disrespectful people because they are so scared, so nervous, so not confident, even in terms of attempting to go for another interview, right? That is how badly self-confidence can impact you. Right now, even if you, for example, go for that job interview, and even if you get the job, if you're low on confidence, you will be the kind of person that won't negotiate a good enough salary or compensation for yourself because you're low on your confidence, right? If you sit in an appraisal, you sit in an appraisal, even if you've done great work the whole year long, if you are not somebody that's confident, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to communicate your thoughts clearly. You're not going to be able to get your thoughts across in the right fashion to the people sitting on the other side, and that will impact your career badly. If you are not self-confident, if there is a meeting that you're sitting in and somebody asks for your opinion, you are the person that's likely to keep quiet during that meeting and not say anything during the meeting. And another person that has the same thoughts as you is likely to raise their hand and share their thoughts, and then don't blame the management or the super bosses or for everybody else to think that that person is smarter than you, right? And in all probability, that person is more confident than you, but this is what ends up happening. You sit there quietly during the meeting, somebody else ends up talking, he starts looking good, you sometimes look bad, right? When you are not confident, you don't end up taking on challenging projects, right? When you're not confident, you don't end up doing anything new in your life. When you're not confident, it has huge impacts on even your personal life for that matter, right? Whether you're married, whether you're not married, how your kids react to you, each one of these aspects really have, confidence has a very direct impact on it in terms of your money, in terms of getting jobs, in terms of getting opportunities. If you get opportunities, how you deal with them, right? More often than not, if you think about it, if there is a challenging project, you are going to have to deal with many senior and difficult stakeholders, right? That's just the reality. If it's a challenging project, that's something that's going to happen. Or if it's a important client or customer for that matter, a difficult customer, again, you're going to need confidence. So tell me one place, ladies and gentlemen, where you can do without this topic of self-confidence. And that's how important it is. And that's why often it really pisses me off. It makes me angry that this topic is not taught more in schools, in colleges, even to adults for that matter, right? Does that make sense to you, the importance of self-confidence? If it does, give me a big yes in the chat box if you're clear on what I'm trying to say. Right? I think most of y'all are in agreement with what I'm trying to say. That's good. Good. Thank you. Now, let's just look at a few, four kind of benefits of self-confidence. We've discussed it right now, but I'm just putting this down and you can read this thing. Um, when you are self-confident, there is less fear and anxiety that you have, right? The more confident you become, the more you'll be able to calm the voice inside you that says, I can't do it. I love, there's a very nice quote that I always love, right? This is a quote by Pablo Picasso, where he says, those who think they can, those who think they can't, right? I'll repeat it. It says, those who think they can, those who think they can't. And often so much of that depends on your self-confidence, right? Towards it. If you're going to start a certain project, activity, goal with the thought that I can't, very often then the result will be that you won't be able to do it. But if you start a certain activity with the thought that I can do this, the probability, the chances of you being able to achieve that go up so much, right? When that happens. There's another nice quote by Henry Ford where he says, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you will be right in the end, right? Because those who think they can will be right. Those who think they can't also will be right. And a large part of how you think towards the start of a certain project depends on your self-confidence, right? Now, the second point, the second benefit of self-confidence is greater motivation. So as your confidence grows, you find yourselves more driven to stretch your abilities, right? Because the minute you're confident, you take on more challenging projects, you take on more challenging stakeholders, and that automatically tends to stretch your abilities. But if you don't take on those challenging projects, automatically your abilities will remain right where they are, right? There's going to be no stretching of those abilities. Okay, now, the third point, very important point, the benefits of self-confidence is that you become more resilient. Confidence gives you the skills and coping methods to handle setbacks and failures. Remember, self-confidence doesn't mean that you won't fail, but you know you can handle challenges and not be crippled by them. This is again a very important time, a very important point. A lot of us self, again, don't mistake self confidence for not failing in your life, exactly like the current times that we're in, the corona times, where so many people are losing jobs, salary cuts, no new jobs available. This is something that is out of our hand in a way, right? This is something which is a once in 100-year event. So you are going to face such setbacks, failures, challenges. They're going to be there, right? If you have self confidence, it's not that that's going to go away, but what will happen because of your self confidence is you feel a lot more equipped to kind of deal with those challenges and not be crippled by them. That is what your self confidence will do, right? And of course, the fourth point that I did mention earlier, it will improve the quality of your relationships, right? When you have more self confidence, you are less focused on yourself. You will enjoy your interactions more because you won't be so worried about the kind of impression you are making, or you won't be comparing yourself to others, right? So a people that the person that is self confident, I'm not talking about somebody that's arrogant, right? I'm not talking about that kind of a or overconfident, as we say, right? For no reason. I'm not talking about that person, but a person that's generally confident will be better in relationships, because like it's mentioned in that point, right? You're not that worried about making an impression. You're not comparing yourself to people all the time. You tend to be a lot more, if you're confident, you tend to be a lot more relaxed, a lot more calm, right? That's what you tend to be. So that those are the kind of advantages and benefits of self confidence, right? Very important point. Now, why do we lack self confidence? So this is again something which is very important to kind of know if you want to figure out this topic, right? Why do we lack it? Now, many reasons, but I have kind of identified what I believe are the four most important kind of reasons, but there could be many more than this, right? Than these four. Okay, so the first one is genes and temperament, right? So what do I mean by genes and temperament? Very interesting, right? Genes and temperament. I mean, and this will be, I don't know whether this is new information to you, but a lot of kind of confidence depends on a lot of confidence depends on just your genetic makeup, right? It depends on just your genetic makeup. It just people are born with a different personalities. And if you want to read more about this, a good place to read more about this is what is called the 5 personality traits in human beings. You can do some Google research on this and you'll find it so interesting as to how we are born with certain temperaments, with certain personalities, a genetic makeup that you have that will leave certain people predisposed towards feeling confident very naturally, and leave certain people predisposed towards not feeling that confidence. So this is one factor which is more or less out of your hand, right? It's just the way you're born. But that doesn't mean that you need to be in that state all your life, right? I'm just stating the factors, and then you can do a lot of things to feel more confident, because you know in the end, irrespective of how you're born or what your personality is or what your genetic makeup is, if you're not confident, you are going to suffer in your professional and personal life, or you're not going to be able to meet your potential. So irrespective of what your genetic makeup or natural makeup is, you are going to have to do things to build on that particular self confidence, right? Now, the number two thing, right, is life experiences. I see a couple of people have mentioned in the chat box saying because of failure, fear of failure. Yes, a lot of these things would come in those life experiences, right? So a lot of people have confidence issues because they've gone through some trauma in the past. They could have been very big incidents of real trauma in their life that is in a way destroyed their self-confidence. That trauma could include some big failures that they've had in their life, in both their personal and professional lives. They could have had those big failures, okay, or moments of trauma in their life, right? So that could be the reason why people don't feel confident. A big factor around confident is even how your parents or immediate family has been as you were growing up, right? Because so if you had certain parents that constantly possibly said negative stuff to you while growing up, constantly compared you to other kids, constantly if you came up with new ideas or said something, they constantly shut you down. A lot of people don't take that very well, right? And that kind of impacts their confidence even as they grow up. So much of the way we are when we grow up depends on how we were as children, right? And we don't give that enough importance. But how you are parented in a way, and your immediate family circumstances plays a big role in terms of your confidence or not, right? Then of course, if you had any kind of major cases in school or college or anything of that sort where you've been constantly bullied, there has been a lot of harassment of you, humiliation. It's very natural in school, college, as you're growing up, for these things to happen. But over a long period of time, that kind of has a big impact on your confidence, right? So everything from failure, trauma, parenting style, bullying, all these things while growing up has an impact on your confidence and where it is currently, right? So the other thing that has a big impact on your confidence is media influence, right? And I mean both medias, your mainstream media, where you're constantly looking at products that keep telling you, or advertisements that keep telling you that you're not good enough, that something needs to be done, or you're not worth it in a way, and this is what you need to do to be worth it. So that kind of influence constantly keeps it up on a subconscious level, that keeps making us feel inferior, that keeps kind of beating on our confidence. A lot of today, because given the amount of time that we spend on social media, from what I understand, each one of us spends anything from 1 to 2 to 3 hours today on social media, another 2 hours on TV, right? That's a lot of media influence, and especially on social media, what tends to happen is um, people end up putting the highlights of their life on social media, right? And if you have 400 or 500 friends, they're constantly putting up the good things that are happening in their life, while your own backstory, your own kitchen, your own everyday struggles, right? So when you're on social media a lot, you basically tend to feel that everybody's life is amazing. Everybody's updating something on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all these places. They're updating or sending you WhatsApp messages, and you start feeling that everybody is on top and I am down. Everybody is doing well, I am having problems, right? Everybody is going for holidays and I am still stuck at home with corona. That's what you end up feeling because of that kind of influence. And again, that kind of starts killing in a way your confidence, right? So that's the other reason these days why a lot of people feel very low on confidence because of that, right? So I was just sharing, I don't know whether any of y'all can check this class out on stress management. We have a class it's called the paradigm shift. It's there on your dashboard if you go and look at it. And I was just sharing a very interesting stat for those of y'all who have Netflix. You can see this stat in a new movie, that in a new documentary which is called The Social Dilemma. And they talk about the rise in suicide that has been taking place from the year, I think, 2008, right? Or 2008 to, no, a little later than that. So they basically, they said when social media started becoming mainstream on the phone and people started spending a lot of time on social media, the suicide rates, at least in the United States, and the same trend all over the world, the suicide rates went up dramatically, right? Because people started spending so much of time on it and then didn't feel very good about themselves. And the suicide rates, especially amongst teens and younger people, they went up like dramatically because of that. And because people started feeling miserable and started thinking everybody else's life is good, and that really can kill your self-confidence. So be very careful. We don't takes the dangers of social media, we don't take them into account, or we don't take them as seriously as we should be taking them. But be very careful about how much you're accessing it, because it can have a subconscious impact on your self-confidence. As far as possible, really limit the amount of time that you spend on it, right? Because it can have, without you knowing, a detrimental impact. It's almost like a drug, in a way that, you take a little bit of that drugs once, it doesn't seem like it's going to have a detrimental impact on your life, but as you go along, you get addicted to it, and it has a very, very bad impact, right? So be very careful, because it's impacting your self-confidence. And the fourth reason, more often than not, and there are many more than this, I've just identified what I think are the top four. um, the fourth reason why we lack self-confidence more often than not is because we have an acute awareness of our shortcomings, right? We know our shortcomings, and because we know our shortcomings so well, that leads to a lack of confidence. And I'm going to get to this point in a little more detail later as we go along, right? So these are the four, in my opinion, most important reasons why we tend to lack self-confidence, and there could be many, many more that we don't have the time to cover right now. When do we lack self-confidence? So we discussed why do we lack it, and now let's discuss when do we end up lacking self-confidence, right? So this is a very interesting topic of when we lack self-confidence. Okay, listen up to me very carefully. In my experience of dealing with people, and like I said, I've dealt with literally hundreds and thousands of people over the last 10 years, every day meeting 30 new people. Everyone, it's not like people are not confident all the time. Okay, I'll say this in Hindi and then I'll say this in English as well. बहुत लोग होते हैं जो घर पे शेर होते हैं ना, घर पे उनका कॉन्फिडेंस बहुत हाई होता है, या कॉलोनी में वो दोस्तों के साथ उनका कॉन्फिडेंस बहुत हाई होता है, but when they go to office their confidence is shattered, right? But it was that same person the previous day in his house. What I said in Hindi was that this same person, when he was in his house, he was like a tiger. He was very confident. When he's in his colony with his friends, he's very confident, he can talk and he can do everything. But the minute he goes into office and he's in front of his boss's boss, his super boss, all that confidence that was there at home, in front of his children, in front of his friend, all that confidence is gone, right? So it's not like the person is not confident in all situations, right? That I've rarely seen that. But it's not that he's not confident in all situations, but when you put him in these kind of critical situations, that's when he loses confidence, right? So essentially there are two kinds of and self-confidence, two areas broadly. So one area is event and situation related, right, where your confidence goes down. Now what do I mean by that? Event or situation related confidence going down. A lot of people feel very nervous, or their confidence goes down a lot, say when they have to make a presentation or do any kind of public speaking, right? It's a very situation. It's not like they don't feel confident otherwise, but when they're in that situation, in certain situations, they feel very low on confidence, right? It could be a presentation that they need to make, it could be a date that somebody is going on, right? If they're going to meet a prospective spouse or a date, all of a sudden when they're talking to somebody probably from the other gender, they start feeling very, very, very nervous. It's not like they're feeling nervous otherwise. um, a lot of people would feel possibly very nervous when, say, they're going for a job interview or something. So it's very event based, their confidence goes low, but otherwise they're okay, right? Now the second kind of person is somebody that's almost feeling low on confidence all the time. It's not that this person, like I mentioned, is not going to have moments where he's feeling confident, right? Everybody feels confident in certain moments, but this is the second person, is more the person that's almost at all points of time very, very fearful, At all points of time, this person is very scared, very nervous, is not sure what he's doing. And it's not really event based, but something which is more perpetual, right? So these are the two kind of situations that I've seen people being in terms of their low confidence. And we need to start doing something for both these people, the people that feel nervous and low on confidence only in certain situations, and the people that are really feeling nervous and low on confidence literally all the time almost, right, irrespective of what the situation is, right? So we should be able to tackle these things. Right now, let's get to understanding what are three things, again, of many things, but let's identify three things that we can do in terms of building our self confidence, right? What are those things that will really start working for you? Okay, now the first thing, if you want to build your self confidence, the first thing, my friend, is self awareness, right? Because if you're not going to have self awareness, and I'm going to keep this very practical, okay? A lot of y'all may not like in the end what I'm trying to say because it will hit home, right? There's a very nice quote that says, "The truth will set you free, but first it may piss you off," right? So I'm going to say a lot of stuff that may sound not very good, may sound a little harsh, but it's just the truth, right? So if you want to improve your self confidence, you need to start with self awareness, right? Now, what do we mean by self awareness? First point here, identify what makes you nervous, be honest to yourself, and really dig deep and try to figure out what are the real reasons that make you nervous in certain situations, or perpetually if you're feeling like that, right? What are those things? Okay, unless you identify them, you're not going to be able to act on them. Right now, let me give you an example. A lot of people post classes would often come and ask me, they'd ask me stuff like this, that they'd come and say, "Sir, but when I'm communicating with stakeholders, I don't feel very confident," right? So I would just stop them right there and I'll say, "Okay, talk to me as a friend and be as honest as you can." That's what I would say, be as honest as you can. What is the real reason why you don't feel confident when you're talking to a senior stakeholder? Can you go down and really try to figure it out? Because they would come to me saying, "Why am I feeling like this? Why am I getting nervous when I'm talking to a senior stakeholder?" And I would just reverse the question and ask it back to them saying, "You tell me, mere bhai, honestly think and tell me, why do you feel nervous?" And I'll give you the most common answers that people would give. Somebody would come and tell me that, "Sir, I don't feel confident. Actually, if I have to tell you and I have to be honest, I don't feel confident because I know my communication skills are lacking." Or they would say, "I know I feel nervous because my commando, the English language, is not good enough. That's why I feel nervous." Right? I'll just take these 2 points. And then I would ask them a simple question. I would ask them saying, "How old are you?" And somebody would say, if they are 40 years old, I'll say, "How long have you known this for? How long have you known that your communication skills are a problem and you get nervous because of communication skills or English skills?" I say, "How long have you known this for?" So they would say, typically the answer would be, "In my last year of college or my first 2 years of work," right? This is the most common answer. I say, "How long has it been that you've been working?" Say, 20 years. I said, 20 years you have known that you feel nervous because your communication skills are not good enough, or your command over the language is not good enough, and you have done nothing about it or done very little about it. So the only person to blame here is you. It's got nothing to do with your genes, although those can be factors, but it's got nothing to do with your genes. It's got nothing to do with your life experiences. It's also got nothing to do with your media influences. It's only got to do with you being aware at a very deep level of what your shortcomings are. You know those shortcomings very well, and that is what makes you feel nervous, because although you have known what those shortcomings are for 20 years, you have done nothing about it. You have taken no effort about it, and you're coming to me to ask me this question because you think
I'm going to give you a crocin, or I'm going to give you some pill to say, take this pill and you will start feeling better. No, you're not going to feel better. Why? Because, like I mentioned, you have lived in your own body for, in his case, 40 years. So you know yourself very, 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 very well. You know how poor your communication skills are. So when you enter that meeting with an important stakeholder, when you know your reality, automatically you will feel nervous. And nobody on this planet is going to be able to change that for you. The only person that can change that is you really being honest to yourself, identifying why you're feeling nervous, and then taking action on that and improving on that. And just the fact, if you take action on that thing, right, even if you don't get spectacularly better, but you start taking the action on it and start improving in that area, automatically your self-confidence will improve, right? In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion and in my experience of thousands of people being dealt with, the number one reason why people are not self confident is not genetic, it's not life experiences, it's not media, is them being aware of their own shortcomings and yet being lazy and not doing about it. I often tell people, we as adults are worse than our children, right? We are worse than our children, because when somebody is a child, they may not have the maturity to understand certain things, right? They don't have the maturity to understand certain things. But as adults, if you've spent 20 years knowing that you have a certain problem and not sorting it out, who is to be blamed for it, right? And that 40-year-old, I'll give you another example. I'm sorry, I'm going a little into detail of this point, but this is the most important point in my opinion. That 40-year-old person, when I ask him, why is your communication not good enough? He has the guts to tell me that my communication skills are not good enough because my parents didn't send me to a good school. This is what he has to say. My parents didn't send me to a good school. You are 40 years old and you're still blaming your parents. You're 40 years old and you're still blaming your parents. Arey Baba, they did the best that they could, no, in the situation and money that they had. They tried the best that they could. But you knew that communication skills that you improve ever since you were 18 years old, 20 years old, 20 years. What did you do about it? You didn't do anything about it. And you're still blaming your parents for it, right? Because most of these problems lie only with the fact that we are lazy, right? I always share this quote. I say, work harder on yourself than you would work on your job. If you work hard on your job, you may make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you will make a fortune, right? And we just do not do that. We are not honest to ourselves. Lie to anybody else, but never lie to yourself, because the easiest person to lie to is yourself. So that person, ladies and gentlemen, that's coming to me for me to answer his query on why he's not feeling confident already knows all the answers to why he's not feeling confident. He's just not acknowledging that. He's just not being honest to himself that this is the reason why I'm not feeling confident, right? So then he starts giving me a whole list. He starts giving me a whole list. He says, sir, my communication skills is a problem. I said, very good. That's the reason why you're feeling nervous in the meeting. That's the reason why you're not opening your mouth in the meeting, right? Because your communication, you know, your English is a problem, your communication is a problem. And then the other guts that this person has, जो मुंह खोल रहा है ना, जो बात कर रहा है, जो communicate कर रहा है लोगों के साथ, the person who's actually sharing his thoughts, communicating, we go outside after the meeting and find a bunch of people that are exactly like us, and we start saying bad things about that person, saying, yeah, extra smart guy talks all the time. That we'll have coffee with our colleagues or uski burai karo, right? That is never going to improve, my friend, your situation, right? You may feel good temporarily having coffee, blaming somebody else. First you blamed your parents, now you're blaming that guy in the meeting who has the confidence to talk. Then you say, Arey, this guy na, he just talks, he doesn't do any work. Tum baat karo fir. Why you not talking? If the situation is that easy, you talk. No, if it's that easy, this is the problem that is there, right? The people are aware of what is making them nervous. They're just not taking the effort to do it. Right now, I'll tell you the top reason. I'll tell you the top reason. Number one reason, communication skills. Number two reason, in my experience, why people are getting nervous is command over the English language, right? They're very, very worried about their English language, which is there, right? If you have any questions, you can leave them in the Q&A box. I'll get to them. Third reason, only people that get very, very like honest to themselves, they start sharing it. The third reason why people get very nervous is because they don't know that particular subject that they need to probably discuss, talk about. They don't know that subject as well as they should, because they haven't taken the effort to really dig deep into that subject, right? So that's the third reason why people more often than not feel very nervous. The fourth reason why people feel nervous is they don't focus on their work, they don't focus on doing a good job, they don't focus on giving their 100% to the job that they're doing, right? So they start feeling that, if I'm not given my 100%, how can I open my mouth? How can I start discussing these things? I know that I'm not doing my job itself well enough. That kind of destroys their confidence. The fifth reason, in no particular order, I'm just giving you the reasons that typically people end up saying to me, right? The fifth reason is they're very aware, they're very conscious about their grooming standards, the way they look, their fitness levels. A lot of these things they get very, very aware of, right? Now, this is what I tell people, okay? And this is the third point as well, right? The one of the 3 points that I'm going to discuss with you, that listen, if you're not confident about the way you're going to dress, right, and that is going to be on your mind, and that's going to make you feel inferior, please learn how to dress well. Please invest money in dressing well, looking good, so you have one lesser reason to feel low on confidence, right? So, and we're going to get to that exercise. The number one reason why people do not feel confident or are low on confidence is because they have not identified the things that make them nervous. They've not been honest to themselves, although they know the answers. They're not digging deep. So first, identify what makes you nervous. And of course, then, as a second point to that, work hard on learning or improving in those areas. Whatever those areas are, work hard. If your communication skills are not good, I'm glad you're part of the club, right? But just being part of the club is not going to help you if you don't take the effort which is required yourself, right? The club is essentially where a gym instructor is telling you what exercises to do, but if you don't go and put those exercises into action, you're not going to get the body. So don't blame the gym, don't blame the trainer, blame yourself in the end for it, right? There's only that much that somebody can do. You need to do your own push-ups in a way, right? But if you think that, say, English communication skills, whatever is that reason why you're feeling not confident, start working on it, attack that particular problem, start getting better on that. Because if you don't do that, nothing is going to change. A lot of people may tell you stuff like stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing. They'll tell you rubbish like that. Stand in front of the mirror and keep saying it. Listen, you know your reality. You know that you're not good at something. You know that you need to get better at something. Irrespective of how much you stand in front of a mirror and lie to yourself, no, it's not going to change. Remember that. It's not going to change, right? So keep that in mind. That's something which is very important, because we get a lot of rubbish advice from people that they think works. Right now, I hope these first 2 points are clear to you. Identify what makes you nervous and then work on those things in a concrete way, right? If you don't do that, nothing else is going to help. Now, the third point is operate in your strength areas. Operate in your strength areas. Now, what does strength areas mean? Let me explain that to you, my friends. Let me explain that to you, okay? Now, every person, it's very interesting. Let me draw this for you, right? So it's a very kind of quick thing of understanding how you must choose what area of work that you need to do, right? So every person must choose an area of work which is at the intersection of 3 things, right? What is that intersection? The first thing is, what are your areas of strength? Okay, what does strength mean? What are your natural talents? Right? What are the things that you're very naturally good at, or what are your strengths or natural talents? Okay, now on the other end, the second thing that you kind of keep in mind is what are the things that you're passionate about or really like doing. Okay, what are you passionate about or really like doing? So on one area you look at what are my strengths, what am I naturally good at. The other area you look at what do I like doing. Okay, now the third area that you look at is what will pay, right? What are the things that will pay you money, give you some money, right? And the career that you choose basically, or the job, whatever you choose, needs to be at the intersection of these things, right? Because sometimes something could be a strength, something could be something that you really like doing, but it may not pay, right? And this is what you need to choose. But first let's concentrate on this area, which is your area of strength. Now, the example that I often give for this thing is, have you heard of Harsha Bogle? I'm sure you heard of Harsha Bogle, right? Very popular commentator Harsha Bogle is. So ever since Harsha Bogle was a kid, the one thing that he was passionate about, the one thing that he really liked was sports and especially cricket. Okay, he loved cricket as he was growing up. However, his strength was not playing, because he tried playing the sport, but he could never hit the ball like a good cricketer would. He could never bowl like. But his strength was his ability to analyze the game and talk about the game. Right, his strength wasn't to play the game. His strength was to talk about it, analyze it. He was really passionate about this, and of course, if he did these two things well and he became a commentator, and that would also pay him money, right, if he did that. Now if he liked cricket but he said, no, 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 I am only going to become a cricketer and I will try to make it to the Ranji team and the international team and the IPL team and all those things, he would probably be never on the radar. But what he recognized is, okay, my passion is cricket, but what my strength is, my strength is not playing, my strength is actually talking about the game, right, analyzing the game. And if I do those, if I do that well, then I will get paid decently well, right? And that's why he did this. So a lot of people, what they try to do, a lot of people are like Harsha Bogle, who are good at talking, but they are trying to play. This is the problem, right? Are you getting the point? There are Harsha Bogle that are good at talking, but they are unfortunately trying to play. Very often, like I give the example. So Sachin Tendulkar is a phenomenal talent, right? But he's a phenomenal talent in terms of playing cricket. Now, if you ask Sachin Tendulkar to sing like Lata Mangeshkar and then say that Arey, Tendulkar is stupid, he's not good because he can't sing like Lata Mangeshkar, that's because you're putting him in the wrong job. It's like Tendulkar selecting the wrong job for himself. So each and every person must identify what his strengths are, what his talents are, and kind of find work to do in those talents, in those areas of work, right? I'll give you my personal example, right? So I am not very good at maths. I am not also very good at say complex stuff, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Math, algebra. Throughout school and college, I didn't know the head or tail of algebra. I don't even know how I passed the year. Chemistry, the formulas, I still don't know how I passed in my 8th, ninth, and 10th standard, right? But when I was in my 10th standard, after that there was huge pressure on me to join science and to do engineering and all those things, but there was no way I could do it, right? Because my brain wasn't equipped to do it. Okay, now if I became an engineer, if you watch Three Idiots, Amir Khan speaks about it much better than I do, right? If you become an engineer, you'll become a very poor engineer, and you'll keep struggling as an engineer because your strength is not around that maths and engineering and stuff like that, right? It's just not around it, and you are doing that kind of a job. So what happens is, when you're doing work which is not in your strength area, or your area of talent, you're not doing that work well. And then when you're not doing that work well, you feel good about it, you don't achieve any kind of success, people are constantly saying bad stuff about it, and that kills your self confidence, my friends. That is what impacts your self confidence. I hope, does this make sense to you? Yes or no? That if you're not operating in your area of strength, give me a yes or no in the chat box. If you're not operating in your area of strength and operating in a space that you are not really, which is not your talent, you're constantly not going to be feeling good about it yourself, not going to be doing well at it, people are going to give you a bad feedback. And just so many people choose professions, job profiles, stuff like that, which is not in that area of strength. Right? Area of strength could be something very simple. There could be a few people whose area of strength or talent could be interacting with people, that they get great joy out of interacting with people. They're very good at interacting with people, very good at dealing with people. Now, if that person is put into some kind of a back-end job where he's not interacting with a lot of people, that's a waste of his talent, waste of a strength, right? Maybe he'll do a very poor job there. So you need to have this self-awareness of what are my talents, what is it that I like doing, right? You need to have a very big self-awareness about it, because otherwise you're going to be in a situation where there's a constant problem, right? And I can't harp on this point enough, right? As a joke, I tell people, I tell them that probably when I'm doing, say, a talk or I'm doing sessions like this, a lot of people probably think, oh, the Swapnil is very smart and look at how well he speaks and look at this. That's because I'm operating in my area of strength, right? It's something that I know I'm good at. I've put in the hard work connected to it. I enjoy doing this thing. But you give me, my ladies and gentlemen, you give me a simple mathematics problem to solve and you will know how bad I am at it. Now, if I every day and night have to solve mathematics problems, I'm going to live my life feeling like I'm an idiot, right? That's what's going to happen. So anybody that's a genius in one area is also a dud in another area. But please don't work in those areas where you're a dud. Work in those areas which are your strengths, my friend. Right? There's a very nice quote by Einstein where he says that if you try to make a fish Hello, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please give me a yes in the chat box. I think I got disconnected, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, thank you, thank you. I think I got disconnected for a minute. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So yes, we were talking about taking feedback seriously. Don't take feedback personally. This is a very famous quote from Hillary Clinton, actually. That means, what does this mean? Right? So it means that when somebody gives you feedback on a certain issue or a certain topic, and feedback is typically given on two things. Feedback is given on the task that you're doing, or feedback is given on the behavior that you demonstrate in a certain thing. Feedback is given on task or behavior. Now, when somebody gives you feedback, if you are busy feeling bad about the feedback given by taking it personally and you think it's a personal attack on you, you are going to always lack in confidence, right? But when somebody gives you feedback, you need to use that feedback, take it to improve yourself, right? That is how you're going to use feedback from today. Because if you take feedback personally, it will start impacting and eroding on your confidence, right? If you take it, because then what happens is you take everything personally, you feel bad about everything, you make everything a personal attack. No, from today onwards, when you get feedback in your personal life and professional life, you're not going to take it personally. You are going to take feedback as something that you need to receive in order to improve yourself in the task and behavior the next time. And also, you need to remember that all feedback that you get may not be right, but ensure that you have an open mind and you listen openly, right, towards them. There's a very nice quote that says, the problem with communication is that we listen to reply, not to understand. So when somebody gives you feedback, listen to them to understand the matter of what they're trying to say and what you can learn from it. Don't feel busy feeling bad about it, right? And if you receive feedback in the right way, It will not impact your confidence. If you receive feedback in the wrong way, you will have a problem in terms of your confidence, right? Now, the fifth thing, if you want to grow your confidence or you build your confidence, is remember that everyone's opinions do not matter. Everyone's opinions do not matter. Your aunt's, husband's, uncle's, dog's opinion does not matter. And if you are busy being concerned about everybody's opinions of you, you are always going to lack confidence, right? Same thing in office. You need to know the couple of people that are really in charge of whether you're going to make progress or not are your boss and super boss, and probably the stakeholders that you deal with immediately, right? Those are, but you do not need to be concerned about what every person's opinion of you on this planet is, right? Because that is something which is very, very detrimental. I'll give you an example of this. If I am doing this particular session, right, there are 60 people here. Now each one of the 60 people is going to have a different opinion, right? Somebody is going to say, "Arey, ye point theek se cover nahi kiya. He should have gotten into deep about this point. He spoke a little more about this point. Why did he have earphones? Why is he wearing glasses? Why is he drinking coffee?" 100 people can have 100 opinion about it. Not everybody's opinion matters. You can't take everybody's opinion to your heart, right? Because that is just the way things are. And if you keep doing that, if you keep getting concerned about your aunts, uncles, fathers, dog's opinion, right, you will always be in a state of being stuck, not knowing what to do. And by the way, this takes very conscious practice. Huh? This takes very conscious practice. There's a very nice quote that says, "A tiger doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep." Right? What a nice use of words. A tiger doesn't lose his sleep over the opinion of sheep. So the first thing that you need to do is be a tiger. Right? That's very, very important. Coco Chanel, I don't know whether you heard. Coco Chanel is, there's a perfume called Chanel. You must have seen that, a big cosmetic brand. And Coco Chanel was the female founder of that cosmetic brand like 50 years back. And she has a beautiful quote. I love this quote. It's one of the quotes that really changed my life. She has a quote where it says, um, she says, "I don't care what you think about me. I don't even think about you." Right? What a beautiful use of words. So she says, "I don't care what you think about me. I don't even think about you," right? Because her whole point is saying, I am so busy doing what I need to do to improve my own self, to work on my own shortcomings. There's another thought that says, "तू क्या बताएगा मैं कहाँ पे wrong हूँ? मैं ही जानता हूँ मैं कहाँ पे wrong हूँ यार, मैं जानता हूँ. You don't need to tell me where I'm wrong. I know where I'm wrong and I'm working hard. I'm busy trying to improve myself on those areas, right? So I don't need to be concerned about what everybody's opinion is. And by the way, my friends, this takes a lot of practice. Okay, don't think that this is going to come to you immediately, right? It will take a lot of practice for you to kind of shunt out the voices of everyone. Now, I'm not saying don't take people's opinions, right? And don't take people's feedback. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. Be very careful about whose feedback you're taking. Be very careful about whose opinion you're taking on what subject, right? Because if you're going to take your aunt's husband's opinion on a subject that he knows nothing about, what should you do in your career, right? Now, whose advice would you like to take on that? Somebody who understands the topic of careers, somebody that's done well in their career, somebody that's very sensible around these issues, somebody that gives really good advice, somebody that listens to you very well. Now, if you take their opinion on a certain thing, it's good if you take their opinion on it. But anybody's comment कि नहीं मैंने आजकल सुना है कि ये इसमें जॉब करना चाहिए, कहाँ पे सुना है? नहीं, व्हाट्सएप पे पढ़ा था. Now you are taking their opinion. WhatsApp पे पढ़ा था कि ये इसमें काम करो अच्छा हो जाएगा, and now you're taking that opinion and you're going ahead with it. Come on, man. Stop living your life like that. It's a very bad way of kind of doing stuff, right? So everybody's opinions don't matter. Take the opinions of people that are knowledgeable in that subject, that know about that subject, that have a track record in terms of succeeding, that mean well for you, that are good at giving advice, that are wise when it comes to this. Take their advice. Not everybody's opinion matters. Otherwise, you're going to kill your confidence if you take everybody's opinions like that. Does that make sense to you? Yes or no? Right? I'll share another thing with you. Okay, so in my life, my friends, in my life, I consider my mother, yeah, as my number one teacher. If anybody asks me, who's your number one teacher, I would say that my mother is my number one teacher, right? Because she took a great effort ever since I was a kid to teach me a lot of things. But I can't take my mother's opinion seriously on all issues in life. I hear her out because she says sensible stuff to me, but it's 50-50, right? Because sometimes she'll be giving her gyan based on her WhatsApp updates that her cousins are sending to her of how I should run my business, do stuff which has got nothing to do with reality. But she's doing it from a good space. She's doing it out of love for me. But that doesn't mean that I can take every opinion and try to process it just because she loves me. So even somebody as close as your parent, however big a teacher that there is, that you can't take each and every opinion of theirs seriously on stuff. You're going to put yourself in a very bad shape. So listen to people's opinions, but process them well yourself. Decide whose opinions to take, whose opinions not to take. And I've already told you how to decide on whose opinions to take, not to take, right? So number one, if you want to build your self-confidence, is self-awareness. Identify what makes you nervous, work on those things. Number two, key point, operate in your areas of strength. Number three, take feedback seriously, not personally. Okay. Now, okay, so this is what I want you to do. And it would be great if you can share it. I won't force you to share it, but if you do, great. You tell me and write this in the chat box saying, what situations do you typically get nervous in? Okay. And what exactly do you get nervous? What exactly do you get nervous about? Sorry, I've forgotten the about. What exactly do you get nervous about? Right? Or why exactly do you get nervous? Sorry. Okay. What situations do you get nervous in? And why exactly do you get nervous? Right? So put your answers in the chat box. If you put a few answers there, I'd be able to give you a few replies right here in terms of what you can do and how you can deal with them. Right? Put your answers, guys, when you are writing. Don't just write to the all panelists, write to all panelists and attendees. I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes to put your answers down, guys. This is very important, because if you don't think of this right now in terms of what situations do you feel nervous is and why exactly. So Sudarshan and Rashmi, why exactly do you feel nervous? Or why exactly do you get nervous? Put that down as well. Okay. Look at some of these. If you look at the answers that are coming here, you will find a lot of commonalities, right, between stuff, right? So look at the answers which are there. I think one of the most common things that people get nervous about is presentations or public speaking, right? If you are one of those people, my friend, that gets nervous while public speaking or presenting, the first thing to remember is you are one of 7 billion people on this planet that gets nervous while presenting or public speaking, right? There's nothing which is unique about you. There's nothing which is different. Almost every person that I know feels nervous while public speaking in some way or the other. I'm glad you're part of the Work Better Club. You will get a lot of input on that. I don't know, very quickly, we have also, I'm doing a cross sell here in the middle of a class, but it's important since so many of you all have mentioned this. Work Better, this is a separate product. Right? It's not a Work Better Club product, but we have a separate product which is called the Communication Coaching Program, where you get one-on-one communication coaching from communication experts, right? So they're one-on-one classes where you get to practice, get to do all those things. Anybody that's a Work Better Club member will give you special discounts for it, right? So you can check with your club consultant, the person that you spoke to, or you can write in here to me if you're interested in the one-on-one communication coaching, and that especially gets you better around presentation skills and gives you a lot of practice around it, so on and so forth, because they are just one-on-one classes. Here, unfortunately, fortunately, because it's the way this product is, there are lots of people here, but that's something that you can do, right? Which can help you, because it seems like it's the most common thing which is there. Suresh TK says, fear of failure, lack of good knowledge, fear of impact on personal front. Maya C says, while making a speech to a large audience while addressing a conflict, reason could be doubt, but this speech will be impactful, right? So again, most common thing. Aditya, hi Aditya, how are you? While giving interviews or critical presentations, reason not working and polishing, upgrading my skills, right? Very good, he's being very honest, right? Vipin B says, organizing a public meeting due to lack of confidence, or public speaking against, demanding extra out of employees, thinking, negotiating with bosses for anything. Okay, so if you see the commonality in what a bunch of y'all are saying, number one is around any kind of public speaking, right? And that's very natural. There's nothing wrong with that. And more often than not, the fear of public speaking comes from various things. The fear of public speaking comes from, again, not being confident about your communication, your ability to speak, articulate your views well, your ability to speak the language well. It comes very often from not being that sure about the questions that are going to be asked, not being sure about how people are going to judge you during that. Your know-how of that particular subject, so on and so forth, right? So there are very concrete reasons why people feel scared there. Now, when it comes to something like interviews, right? Going for an interview, of course, you need to, a lot of the factors are common as to why people get scared in an interview, but actually there's no reason to get scared in an interview, right? So because when you're going into an interview, if you use this very simple logic of saying that, I will have to go for 5 to 10 interviews, I'll have to get 5 to 10 interview calls, and I'm sure one of those interview calls I will crack, right? That's going to be the logic. But if you say, I need to crack the first one, the first job interview that I go, I need to get the job. If you're going to do that to yourself, you're going to be very nervous, because you're putting too much of pressure around that one interview that you're going to go for, right? You're going to put too much of pressure around that. And that's not the way you can operate. You need to say, if I want a job, I need to go for 5 to 10 interviews. It's not going to happen in the first time that I go, because there are many candidates that are going to be there. So I'm going to prepare by myself well, but okay, it's going to take 5 different companies for me to go and do it, and one of them I will crack. And then you will find yourself going into that interview setting with a lot more, in a lot more relaxed way, saying that ठीक है, ये नहीं हुआ, अगले में करेंगे, कोई problem नहीं, okay, जिंदा तो है, right? We're alive. We'll do it the next time, and not putting unnecessary pressure on yourself for that one interview. This is what people tend to do a lot. Are you getting it? People tend to do this a lot. Now, another area which is, somebody said appraisals, or when your seniors are assessing you. Mere bhai, after having been and trained hundreds of people on this thing, I can tell you one thing: when people go for their own appraisals, they do not prepare themselves one bit. They go khali haath, like Ritik Roshan, right? Without any preparation, without anything, they go and sit there in the appraisal. And people that do their appraisals well and get a good appraisal, we did a session, I did a session on this a few days back. People that get a good appraisal are people that go thoroughly prepared for that particular appraisal, right? They have every achievement of theirs, and then automatically they feel more confident during that appraisal. So these are very kind of specific things that need to be done in specific situations, but a lot of them revolve around being prepared, having the right mindset, improving on your key skills. It will all boil down to those things, my friend. Okay. often people tell me presentation skills, right? And they say, no, I'm not worried. So I said, what's the problem? What are you worried about? In the end, people are worried about how is this going to impact me. That's what they're worried about. How is this going to impact me, my life? Everybody's concerned about themselves, right? And what I tell them is, theek hai, you go and make a presentation and the presentation flops. ओके तो क्या होगा फिर अगर प्रेजेंटेशन फ्लॉप भी होगा तो क्या होगा नौकरी जाएगी आर यू गोना लूज योर जॉब दे से नो आई से लेट्स सी नौकरी चली भी गई अब कोरोना टाइम पे नहीं है कोरोना टाइम पे थोड़ा मुश्किल हो चुका है नौकरी गई तो नौकरी goes it's become a lot more difficult during corona time but in regular time if the job goes are you not capable of getting another job I say yeah with my experience I am I say तो रास्ते पे तो नहीं आओगे ना you're not going to come on the road right you're not going to come on the road no I say no then why are you simply building these things in your head one small little presentation in your head you come to the roads you lost your job no don't do that right don't do that try to do the presentation well but even if it doesn't go well it's okay you're not going to come on the road right while doing it so these are just some of the ways in which you need to start thinking into them not prepared a lot of us just blow things out of proportion in our head and that's exactly what you must do right now somebody says talking to super seniors makes me nervous yeah why does it make you nervous what about that makes you nervous right there's nothing don't the problem with us is when we're talking to super seniors you know what we think and what makes us nervous we think that when we're talking to a super senior we need to impress him problem hai now I met him I need to impress him now how do I impress him अभी नर्वस हो गया अरे भाई उस सुपर सीनियर को तेरा नाम मालूम नहीं है ठीक है इम्प्रेस करके कि भी क्या फायदा उसको नाम भी नहीं तेरा मालूम है ठीक है इट्स प्रॉब्ली नॉट इवन डायरेक्टली इंटरेस्टेड इन योर presentation skills why are you getting nervous people don't know this they are trying to impress somebody right do not try to impress try to impress try to express do not try to impress try to just express yourselves because the minute you start trying to impress all the problems happen if you go for a date you know where the problem happens when you're trying to impress your date then you start getting nervous right while saying hey now how do I impress her no don't try to do that just try to express yourself right just try to have a conversation and just having a regular conversation with that super senior is more than enough do not rattle yourself trying to impress him and trying to say something smart when you think oh I need to say something smart then you get nervous now what do I say which is smart that's the problem don't think you're thinking on the right wrong lines express do not try to impress the minute you do that that becomes a problem okay I could go on with this thing but we have two more points to cover good some great answers have come up in these things okay now the first point that we discussed in how to build your self confidence is self awareness in a way bridge the self confidence gap that is how I would put it right bridge the self confidence gap through your self awareness which is there now the second point is get victories success under your belt right because if you get success and victories under your belt nothing is more important than that okay there's a beautiful quote which I'm starting nothing succeeds like success when I was younger I didn't understand what this quote meant I didn't understand what it means that nothing succeeds like success when I grew up I started understanding it I thought kya bol rahe nothing succeeds like success iska yahi matlab hai the minute you start succeeding and doing well automatically your confidence starts growing and when your confidence starts growing if you become arrogant it won't work but if your confidence starts growing ladies and gentlemen then that spurs on further success for you right and that's why nothing succeeds like success so you need to get a few victories under your belt okay now how do you get that number one get results and do your job excellently right anybody that's attended my classes know that my favorite point घूम फिर के मैं ये point पे आता ही हूँ करेक्ट कोई भी subject हो मुझे ये point बोलना ही है ठीक है because most of our problems get sorted the minute we start getting results if you came for my perception management class I spoke about getting results any class that I because in the end you need to know that nobody cares about your efforts people care about the actual results that you get And when you start getting results consistently, when that starts happening, automatically your confidence grows up, right? I was just discussing with one of my colleagues the other day. I was just telling them, saying that, when I typically enter a room and I'm interacting with people, and especially if those people are from sales, right? I can interact with a bunch of 10, 15 people, shake hands with them, interact with them, and I can tell you किसका target हो रहा है और किसका target नहीं हो रहा है, right? 15 people shake their hands, I know किसका target हो रहा है, किसका नहीं हो रहा है, क्योंकि जिसका target हो रहा है ना, who is achieving his target, उसका एक swag होता है, उसका जो confidence होता है, वो थोड़ा अलग ही level पे होता है, right? The person that's actually getting the results, he's walking with a certain swag, he's walking with certain amount of confidence, and the person whose targets are not being met, who's doing his job poorly, उसका थोड़ा confidence में ही problem आता है, right? So getting these victories and successes under your belt is very important. So ensure that you do your job well, get results consistently. Now let me give you another kind of point. If you don't do your job well, or if you do your job in a lazy way, oh my god, I know so many people in my company itself, right? At Work Better Training, we have close to 70, 75 people that are working with us full time. And of course, we have a bunch of trainers that conduct these sessions for us. In my organization itself, and those people are not going to last very long in the organization, in my organization itself, you have certain people that do their job excellently well. At least they're putting that under belt, because the minute they start doing their job excellently, their bosses, their super bosses, their colleagues, they start appreciating them. They start saying, okay, this person has done a good job. They acknowledge the good job that I've done. They appreciate the good job that is done. And again, like I discussed in how to get a good appraisal, I said it's important that you get marks on all your KRAs, on all the parameters, not just by doing one thing well, which I said, if you have 10 subjects, if you're a student and if you have 10 subjects, if you get 90 in maths, but if you get 20 in physics, you will still fail the year, my friend, right? And a lot of people do that in their office, right? They'll do one task very well and they say, "Arey, kaam to acha kar raha hu, but I don't do it consistently." Consistent, when you do your job well, then people kind of come to you, they appreciate you, they acknowledge you, and your confidence starts going up. When you do your job badly, the bang opposite happens. People are critiquing you, they're pulling you up all the time. Then your boss can't pick the phone. Why? Because you've not done your job well. You've not done your job with sincerity. And then you'll keep getting beaten down by your customers, seniors, bosses, stakeholders because of that. And that will pull you down, my friend. So there is no excuse to getting results consistently and doing your jobs well, right? Number two of getting victories, build the right habits and stick to them. Build the right habits and stick to them. Iska matlab kya hai? Build the right habits. Yeah, even if you just decide, every day to wake up at a certain time, and if you start doing it every day of the week, every day of the month, if you start doing that thing of waking up on that time, you from the inside will start building the right habits and you'll start changing as a person. You will identify yourself as a person that decides to do something and then does it, as against you deciding that I'm going to go for a walk every day, do it for 3 days, and then you stop doing it. Then you'll identify yourself as a person that decides to do something but can't do it. The minute you put habits into action and stick to them and start doing them consistently, you build your own image in your own mind and own head, and that leads to you feeling more confident. Are you getting my point, my friends? The minute you start a certain habit and stick to it, your own confidence will grow. Nobody knows about it, but you know about it now. You know about it whether you're doing it or not. And the minute you know about it and you start doing it, that will bring a difference. I decided to lose weight 10 kgs and I lost weight, as against saying I decided to do something but then 2 days I gave up on it, and then you laugh, ha 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 ha, अरे छोड़ दिया यार, छोड़ दिया. Corona start हुआ तो थोड़ा fitness किया, बाद में छोड़ दिया, right? So how will you feel more confident about yourself if you give up on your own self? No, if that happens. So build the right habits and stick to them. And again, Don't try to do too many things at one time. Don't say, I will wake up at 6 o'clock, I'll go to the gym, I will also study, I'll also do these 5 new habits I will set. Don't do that. You will start becoming a failure. Identify 2 things that you say, for the next 3 months, I will do these things consistently every day, come what may. And then deliver on those 3 promises that you make to yourself. When I spoke about the first point, I said, get results consistently for your organization. Here, when I'm talking about right habits, I'm saying get results for yourself. You decide what your goal is, you decide what your habit is, you decide what your target is, and then meet that particular thing. Right? If you do that, that is what will make you feel more confident. Right? Makes sense, no? The very simple, practical things, my friend. I'm not trying to give you any gyan that doesn't work. I'm not telling you to stand in front of the mirror and say stuff and tell you that I'm not selling you on some dream that says you'll become more confident after that. Right? Now, this is the third one. Acknowledge past victories and good work done. Create an achievement log. Okay? Now, certain people, no, वो लोगों के बारे में भी कुछ अच्छा नहीं बोल सकते, वो खुद के बारे में भी कुछ अच्छा नहीं बोल सकते. लोग होते हैं, they can't say anything good about other people, but they can keep saying good things about themselves. But there are few people that can't say good things about other people, and they also can't say good things about themselves, right? So a good way, right, especially if your confidence is low, you can think of the past good victories or past victories that you had in any sphere when you had good victories, or any good work that you've done, and you can remind yourself of that. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that you should be doing is every time you do something well, every time you're appreciated for something, every time you feel really proud about yourself, you must make a note of it. Because when your confidence levels go low, you can always refer to what is called an achievement log, right? And really look at, oh, these are all the good things that I've done in the past. And that achievement can be something as simple as deciding to lose 5 kgs and actually losing them and becoming healthy. Deciding to spend not more than half an hour on social media and actually making it happen. It could be an achievement which is that small. But those are the achievements, those are the successes that keep building up for you to become a more confident person, right? You should be the kind of person that feels about yourself. मैंने एक बार decide कर दिया ना तो मैं करता ही हूँ. It doesn't matter what happens. And the minute you get that, starts building your confidence, and then that confidence starts reflecting in your interactions with other human beings, right? Because like I said, if you know yourself, if you are not confident, how do you expect other people to be confident in you? So acknowledge the past good stuff that you've done, the good work that you've done. Create an achievement log so that you know. Okay. Now, the fourth point here. Oh, we're running out of time. Set confidence boosting goals. इसका क्या मतलब है? अब बहुत क्या हुआ है? What happens is a lot of us, again, this has a big social media influence to it as well. Dream big. Dream big. We've been told this thing. Keep dreaming big. Nothing against dreaming big, but you need to know how to dream big and dream small as well. Because if you keep saying dream big and set yourself some unrealistic goal, then when you don't get to that unrealistic goal which is there, because you set a big dream for yourself, that will, as a matter of fact, have a negative consequence on you. Don't have a positive consequence. Negative consequence is what will end up happening, right? So, my friends, it's important to dream big, but it's also important for you to dream small, which means that set yourself realistic goals. Okay, slightly stretch goals, but they have to be realistic. Because if you set yourself the wrong goals and then you don't achieve those goals, that will dampen your confidence. But if you set yourself realistic goals and you start meeting those goals, that's when your confidence grows. Then you can set a slightly bigger goal the next time and try to meet that, and a slightly bigger goal and try to meet that, slightly bigger goal and try to meet that. But do not set yourself unrealistic goals based on what you see on social media, based on what some quote that you see there or something that your friend has put up. Don't do that. That's not going to help you. So set confidence boosting goals. Okay. Now, the last point, deal with setbacks, mistakes well. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Don't blow things out of proportion, right? Now, when you are trying to achieve anything in life, when you're trying to do any new thing, when you're trying to do any work, there is always going to be setbacks that you're going to face. There are always going to be mistakes that are going to be made. But my God, my friends, I know so many people, right? I know I have this person very close to me, right? So she's somebody that's an excellent communicator, does her job extremely well, right? Very, very well. She does her job. But every time she makes a mistake, or there's a slight setback that happens, she makes such a big deal about that setback that is there, right? And that kills her confidence for no reason, right? Because when you're going to be doing new things, when you're going to be doing challenging things, of course there are going to be setbacks that are going to be there, of course there are going to be failures that are going to be there, right? You cannot let them put you back totally, right? So number one point out of your big three was ensure that you have great amount of self-awareness. Number 2 point was get the victory successes under your belt. And this is how you go about doing it, right? Because nothing succeeds like success in the end, right? And the third point, and of course for this third point we have lots of detailed classes for you. If you missed the classes, you can go to your dashboard and attend it. We did a lovely class on grooming for men. There's another class on grooming for women, etiquette. We're doing all these things that can help you build an attractive personality, right? Because whether we accept it or not, in a world which is social, in a world where we're interacting with other people, it's very important for our confidence that we build an attractive personality, right? Now, what are some of the elements in this personality which is there? Number one, learn social skills, right? It's something, we have a class on it again that says how to make good conversation with people, but read up on it, right? On how to interact with people, how to interact, how to converse with people. Okay, I'll give you another example of, a lot of people say, oh, I find it very difficult to make conversation with people. I get very nervous to make conversation with people. And I ask them, and they typically don't have an answer to this, right? And then I'll ask them, why do you feel nervous to make conversation with people? I don't know. I've always been like this. And then they'll blame their parents for something, right? So I say, why do you really feel? I'll say, can I tell you why you feel nervous while making conversation? Because you have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to talk about. That's why you feel nervous while making conversation. I said, what do you mean? I said, your general awareness and general knowledge is super poor because you've not read enough. You've not exposed yourself. You only expose yourself to rubbish that comes on WhatsApp, right? That's the reason why you have nothing to talk about. Now, I say, what do I mean by that? If you go for a date, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to talk about? IPL देखा? हाँ देखा, धोनी ने अच्छा मारा ना. Okay. कौन सा मूवी देखा, कौन सा सीरियल देखा? मोदी बहुत बुरा है ना, या मोदी बहुत अच्छा है? करो ना, अच्छा है करो ना. Besides these superficial things that we have, we are bad at making conversation because we have nothing to talk about, because our general awareness is so poor, because we don't read anything beyond this rubbish that comes in our WhatsApp, right? Those are the only things that we do. We don't really go deep into anything and read about it, know about it, expose ourselves to good stuff. That's why when you're in a position where you need to interact with people, you're not very good at doing this, and you know that reality about yourself, because kitna bologe yaar IPL ke bare mein, right? How much? And that also you don't know anything about actually cricket, right? So learn social skills. Now, create an impressive smile and body language. We've done an entire, I'm not going to go into details here on it, right? This is just to give you a crux of, this is another part which is important, because we have a whole class on the body language of what good body language is. So please watch that class. If you want to watch it live, it will come in a while, right? If you want to attend a live class like this, otherwise it's there on the dashboard. Practice keeping a cool mind at all points of time. Again, exactly like it takes practice not to take everybody's opinion seriously, it also takes practice to like have a cool mind. Don't panic in each and every situation, right? People panic for anything and everything for no reason. They start panicking, but every time you're in that situation, you need to be conscious and aware and say, I'm not going to panic, right? That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep a cool mind. And all of us know that if you keep a cool mind, you're likelier to get a better result than worst thing. Number 4, develop a dressing sense, right? Learn about how to dress well. Invest a little bit of money in dressing well. The one thing, a lot of different things could have become expensive over the years, but to tell you quite honestly, the one thing that has not become expensive is clothes, shoes, all these things, because today there are so many there are so many websites where you get so many good deals, offers, and those are things that haven't become too expensive over the years, right? But you invest in kind of dressing well. Invest if you're going now. A lot of y'all wouldn't be going to office, but when you go to office, wear the right kind of clothes, because automatically that makes you feel a lot more confident when you dress well, right? Get a good haircut, wear a good frame of glasses, ensure that your shoes are polished, wear the right socks, wear good fitted clothes, right? So ensure that you're doing those things so that when you go into any setting, you feel more for me feel more confident. And of course, be positive, right? So do not try to say or do anything which is negative. At all points of time, ensure that you are positive from the inside, and even what you're talking is kind of positive stuff. You're not really being a negative person, because nobody likes interacting with a negative person that much, right? So each one of these things are like classes in themselves, and you should attend those classes in themselves at the Work Better Club. But this is just the last part of build an attractive personality, so that you feel more confident about yourself, whether it's your social skills, whether it's your body language, whether whether it's your body language, whether it's keeping a cool mind, whether it's developing a dressing sense, whether it's being positive, right? So do each one of these things that can really help you in building your self confidence. Okay, with that we come to an end.